Terrific. So I will begin assuming that many of us here, and I would say most of us here, already have an idea of what DACA is, already know what dreamers are, already know what happened, that for the last, let's say, 15 years, those of us who advocate for immigration reform have been actually advocating to give a chance to those children that were brought to the country when they were little ones with no fault of their own by their parents. And it was an idea that had a lot of supporters in Congress. But what happened during the Bush administration, there were many attempts at enacting this bill. Nothing happened. Then during the Obama administration were terrific attempts. It did pass one area of Congress, did not pass the other, and then the second time it passed the other one, not the first one. In essence, it was blocked all the time, having a terrific support in the public, and in the end, nothing happened in Congress. Then what advocates and the Latino community did was pressure the former President Obama to actually enact an executive order, and that's exactly what happened. After a lot of pressure, after saying that he didn't have the authority to do it, after really not doing anything for a long time, President Obama actually was pressured into enacting an executive order that actually facilitated the process of these young people to study, work, join the military, and come out of the shadow. Everybody knew that that law was an executive order and that any future president could, with the stroke of a pen, get rid of it because it was an executive order. That is not what is being debated now. We have a new president who decided that he would rescind DACA and pass the bucket to Congress where the thing actually belonged from the beginning. But with that decision come a lot of risks for 800,000 beneficiaries, and we have one of them today precisely here that put them at a serious risk of deportation if Congress act exactly as they have done during the last 15 years. So the president has given 6 months to Congress. It's now 5 months only. And in Congress, we have always had initiatives to benefit these students, but nothing happened. If nothing happened, we don't know what's going to be the future of this talented segment of our population. So I will begin by asking the panel a question exactly in those terms. What would be the real consequences of rescinding DACA? And I would like to begin by asking that to the DACA recipient in our table here. Carlos.
Thank you. It would obviously put us at risk of deportation, absolutely. And from that, we will lose everything we have accomplished so far. With that being, I wouldn't be able to work no more, nor be enrolled in a 4-year institution, trying to accomplish my dream, getting my 4-year degree, my bachelor's degree. I would lose my driver's license and be deported back to my country.
That would be the consequence. Claire, same question.
No. So I think those are the most serious consequences, obviously, that we're going to hear about. There are some more technical legal consequences that are a little bit more invisible to the general public. DACA helps prevent young people from accumulating what's called unlawful presence here in the United States. So there are penalties in immigration law for having been here. Can you guys hear okay?
No. Yeah, raise your voice a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting some blank stares, and I hoped it wasn't what I was saying, just, you couldn't hear me. So in immigration law, there is a long list of rules that if you break any of them, there are certain penalties set out for that. A lot of those rules have to do with immigration violations, including unlawful presence in the United States. And most of those penalties only start when you turn 18 years old. So there's a penalty for if you're here 6 months undocumented, you're barred for 3 years from the United States from getting a green card if you were able to apply. If you're here more than a year, it's a 10-year penalty that you can't, unless you get a waiver, overcome. So one of the things that DACA provided was it basically covered these students during that time. So even though they didn't have a great permanent status here, at least they weren't accumulating that time. So especially for students who weren't yet 18 when they got the benefit, that has a really detrimental effect because it's also making it harder for them to, get a green card through a future spouse or another family member. It's actually having a cascade of negative legal effects.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. Same question.
So just to kind of clarify, obviously what both of them have said are some of the most drastic legal consequences. Under this rescission that was given by President Trump, anyone who currently has DACA, or if their DACA is going to expire up to March 5th of 2018, can still apply to have their DACA renewed, and that renewal, as of today, would still be good for the period of time that it's approved for, which is usually 2 years. So we are going to see some cascading of people falling off of this in a mountain type of manner, in that some will come due and their status would expire then on March 6th of 2018, and they are ineligible for renewal, so they will be cut from the workforce. I think community-wide that this will have a detrimental effect for more than just the students in particular. A lot of my DACA clients are young adults now and have had this for several years. Many of them have children of their own. And if they are not able to work, think about what that does for their family and the ability to provide for that family. And is that going to cause taxpayers to more money in assistance for U.S. citizen children who are now going to be eligible for TANF or food stamps? So I think it's important for our community as well not to have these people who are not able to work legally in our country and searching for ways to provide for their family that maybe are more under the table. I just don't feel like that would be beneficial to any of us community-wide.
So about 1 million more citizens will go back to the shadows, is what I hear. Luz.
Well, I don't really know what else to add, besides losing their driver license. They are not going to have work authorization. So I'm pretty sure all the companies, human resources will be really verifying, and that's what they do in the E-Verify right now, that those people, are not able to work. They're losing their jobs. They are not able to. Well, I know some schools are still implementing, I don't know IPFW, but I know that there are some schools that they still want to keep the students, even that some of the students are paying out of the state tuition. They are implementing some actions. I know Notre Dame is doing something in some other schools, but it's pretty much the consequences are just catastrophic. I mean, they're losing everything.
Good. Mm-hmm. Now, if the program is completely stopped, what do DACA recipients need to do right now to make themselves a little less vulnerable in this situation? What can they do right now? Beginning with you, Luz.
I think what Desiree was saying is really important to know that the ones that they have the work authorization or the DACA that is going to expire in March, March 5th, they have to do the renewal now, because at least they're going to have another 2 years. So that will give us some time to see what happens. The ones, unfortunately, that I know, I have about 400 clients that they are in the DACA program right now. And I just have a call today, one that is going to expire in May, that we have in April. And unfortunately, at the moment, it's really nothing. You just wait, but hopefully something is going to happen. But for now, it's just to make sure that the ones that they have, the DACAs up to, expire in March, please do the renewals right now.
And to renew, what do you guys and other people have in place to help the students? Desiree, right there.
Thank you for that lead-in. So we are hosting a DACA renewal clinic here on campus. It's actually going to be in the Walb Student Union this Saturday.
The next building.
This Saturday from 12 to 3, and it is in room 114. And we have a bunch of volunteers, so pleased with our community, with the people who have come together to say, yes, put me down, I want to be involved, I want to help people get renewed, I want to help the Carloses of our community. And so we have lots of attorneys that are going to be there, as well as some other staff to help people, like, just come in, we'll help you fill out your paperwork. We have a flyer as well and stuff on our webpage. So I have brochures if you want to link to our webpage, and it will tell you the things that you need to do and bring in order to get those renewals sent. And we would get those mailed out for everyone next week if that's something that they are wanting to do and are eligible to do. And one further thing that I would just say, and I'm sure Claire would mimic this, is if you have someone who has DACA, now is the time to maybe re-examine possibilities for immigration and to sit down with somebody who really knows the ropes, whether that be Catholic Charities or an attorney, to take a look at your big picture and see if there are any other avenues. I actually have a couple of DACA recipients who recently had paroled back in and are now married to U.S. citizens, and we will be adjusting them. So definitely, I think I would encourage everyone to get some knowledgeable advice. It's worth it to sit down and say, okay, here's where I am, and to go through those, walk through that with an attorney.
And talking about an attorney, Claire.
You gave me a good lead in too, I like it.
Sure.
So one of the interesting things about our immigration laws is a lot of people assume that there's some big process where you submit an application on this end of the tube and you do some stuff and you come out on the other side with a green card, right? That's what you would think. But the way the system's actually set up, there are just hundreds of different programs, different visa options, and they're just sort of isolated, floating in space. So it's a little bit hard to tell, and they all have different requirements, different benefits. So it's really hard to tell if you might be, have some other benefit out there that you didn't even think about. So we are seeing a lot of people who DACA was the most obvious, fastest, cheapest route for them, but now through a family member, maybe they've been a victim of a crime and they've cooperated with the police to bring that person to justice. There are other things that might be able to be tried. So it's important to look at that, and all immigration cases take a very long time. So it's not good for people to think, hey, I've still got a year, I'm fine. If you have another option, it's time to start it now, and they can do it simultaneously with the DACA. So you don't want to let go of your DACA, you need to renew it, but if you have something else, start working on that.
Carlos, just for our benefit, what was the process that you went through? What did it take? What paperwork did you have to show? What criteria did you have to fulfill in order to qualify to be a DACA recipient?
So actually, when I first filled out my application, it was when it first came out, the program first came out. And I remember Luz was one of the ones that helped me out. It was with the Radio Única, one of the radio stations here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They hosted a big workshop, I remember. It was in a retirement home, and I was one of the first ones that actually that went there. Was first in line, remember, to fill out our paperwork to get my case rolling, get my work permit, and process my social security number so I can attend a four-year institution, continue my education, get my driver's license, work somewhere. So yeah, that's what I did. Get my paperwork filled, my documents that I needed, my birth certificate translated, my passport, all my IDs that I accumulated over my high school career, my my recognition certificates in high school, all that information. That's one of the things I did.
And for sure, you didn't have any criminal record.
No criminal record.
Because if you had, you couldn't have been a beneficiary. It is important because this takes us to what is the segment of those who have benefited from DACA. These are the best of the best. This is people who deserve to be there. And talking about who deserves to be there, in my introduction I said that the problem is now in the hands of those who needed to solve it definitely, because DACA from the beginning was a temporary solution to a problem that was extremely bad. A temporary solution, an executive order. Many people debated that wasn't constitutional, etc., but the court actually upheld the executive order. And those of us who advocate for immigration reform remind people that the emancipation of the slaves was also an executive order. So we are talking about historical, political actions that have been taken with the purpose of actually addressing real social problems. Now, that is the job of Congress. What would happen if Congress do not, first, what is the probability, first, that Congress will pass some sort of a dreamer protection bill? Anyone?
Oof. Well, I was just having that conversation with Desiree. To anticipate anything with this new administration is something that, well, it's really hard to do right now. But I really hope that, yeah, something is going to happen and it's going to be even better. And it's just forget the human, part of this whole process. But I think if we say this, from the business aspect, if this is what they want to see it, this is, our DACA's recipient. I mean, they are so involved in what they are providing and giving to the community. I mean, they have jobs, they are paying taxes, they are in a school, they are, a lot of them are paying, out of the state. They are making such a contribution, to our economy and to, our country. So I think that to pass it will be the right thing to do in the more, how can I say, the more logic thing,
Logic thing.
Just, to give them something, and I really hope that it's going to be something better and something more permanent to what they already have.
I think, are we just jumping around
Yeah,
randomly?
jump around. Yep.
Good, because that's what I was going to do.
Don't worry.
I guess we were all sitting up here talking about this, but the thing about probabilities is it doesn't matter if it's extremely probable and then at the last minute it doesn't go through. Either we get it or we don't get it. And the reason, I liked whoever was talking about before, the reason that DACA came about in the first place is that so many people got together politically and they said, we need to publicize this situation, we need to get the average American on our side, we need to put political pressure on our representatives. And so it's not a question of, hey, do we think this is going to work? It's keep doing what we're doing because we have to put that pressure on. And ironically, we are in a better potential position now than we have been in years. So it's kind of a strange situation. I think we have to always keep pushing for it, like long game strategy here and just getting a little more support every time. So I think the Dreamers have been super powerful politically. They've organized really well and they should keep doing it to get it done, and we're with them. So.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. Right now we have lots of momentum. There have been some bills introduced that have more Republican backing than in the past. So I was telling them that I tend to very much deal with the legality as it is right now because you just never know what's going to come the next day. But I do feel that it has some momentum right now and really hope that we can get something passed.
Momentum in the public. I just heard that about 66% of the American population actually support resolving the problem of the Dreamers. I heard that there are many senators, many representatives, but what about our senators, our representative from Indiana? What have we heard about them? Have we heard?
To my knowledge, I don't know if anyone's on the record. I do know that historically, Indiana representatives from both parties have not been particularly favorable. Even, for example, Senator Donnelly has cast some votes that tended to be a little bit anti-immigrant, in my opinion. I mean, it's a tough road with Indiana, but sure. I was just saying, I have not heard any stories, I don't know if you have, that any of the Indiana representatives or senators have said we would vote or we wouldn't vote. I do know that in the past, even Democrats in Indiana who tend to, to support the DREAM Act have been a little less so in Indiana. So, but I also know that people from Indiana were pretty logical, we're pretty practical. So I think there's an argument to be made that, hey, it helps the economy, they haven't committed crimes, there's a lot of humanitarian situation here, and this makes sense. So I think we have to make those logical arguments to Indiana representatives, is my opinion.
Absolutely. If history is a good indication, remember Senator Lugar was the first who introduced the first version of the DREAM Act. Senator Lugar from Indiana and Senator Durbin from Illinois. And now Durbin is doing the same pairing with Senator Graham from South Carolina. But now, what would happen if Congress doesn't do its job? What would happen if Congress do not pass any protection for the Dreamers? Panelists. Carlos, go ahead.
Okay. We're obviously, we will be deported back to our countries. We will lose everything we have here, and even our families could be potentially at risk of deportation as well. So it's not just me, but also my family and my siblings, that live with me. So it's a big risk that's going on. It's not only me, but my family as well.
Because you already have given the government your data.
Exactly.
And you came out of the shadow hoping that the promise they made to you would be kept.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Any other panelists? What would happen if Congress, as usual, doesn't do its job?
Well, I think we've discussed it a little bit already at the community level, not even considering what types of things that people turn to make money to support their families. Say, for instance, one thing the administration has said is that, well, unless you have egregious crimes, we're not going to refer your information to ICE. And so
that was the promise.
Yes, and they're still saying that. But even those people who say they're not, they stick to that, and those people who don't have criminal records stay here. At some point, where rubber meets the road, we hit a period of desperation where they're trying to provide for their families, especially as they get older and they have families of their own. What kind of life are they going to turn to in order to make money to support their families? And it's almost like we are proactively saying that's okay by not helping them stay where they are and out of the shadows, as you say, and working and paying taxes and being able to support their family the way we as a community say is good.
Good, terrific. I always like to learn from attorneys, and we have a bunch of them here. I do remember that President Obama actually proposed a second program after DACA that was called DAPA. And DAPA intended to benefit the parents of the DACA kids, and that was stopped by the action of several attorney generals that actually sued the government and got a favorite opinion from the court and stopped the DAPA program. The same process could happen now. I was just talking to Brian, and we were just remembering that actually, even today, there were many lawsuits published by DACA recipients and the American Civil Liberty Union and some other states that have joined, original states that have actually put forward some legal actions to stop the stopping and forgive me, my first language is Spanish, so it makes sense in Spanish. But the great uncertainty exists in that we don't know what's going to happen in that regard. And the same argument that was used to stop the DAPA program to benefit the parents, now that Carlos mentioned, the parents of children who are American citizens, etc., was stopped by the court system. Can the court system stop the current government action against DACA?
So, yeah, I guess I can answer that. So the reason the President of the United States has really wide power, being the head of the Department of Homeland Security, has pretty wide power to use the government's discretion to decide where they'll funnel resources, who are their priorities. And so under that basis, that's why President Obama decided to take the specific action with DACA and DAPA. The lawsuits against that action were saying, although you have broad power to do that, you've stepped outside of that and you've made a specific program with specific requirements. So you're not looking at it on a case-by-case basis, and you've overstepped your power. And in the United States, the division of powers is an important part of our government. So that was what the argument was about. And so now President Trump has used his own executive power to get rid of that. And so some of the lawsuits are basically saying that the action was taken not for the security of the country, but sort of like a racial retribution sort of argument. I personally think that they won't prevail on that. It's really a stretch. I think, unfortunately, right now in the United States, the way we talk to each other is by suing each other about everything. So I think it's really something that needs to move out of the courts and into Congress. So in that sense, it's probably good that it's gotten pushed there. That's where it really needs to be resolved.
One of the benefits of this thing that happened is that now almost everyone talked about DACA. Before this, not too many people understood what DACA means, etc., which is, in a weird way, it is good in that regard. But now, we have heard that there are around 800,000 Dreamers that have benefited from the program. Are we talking about only Mexicans?
Well, the majority, I'm talking about my experience because I have filed since 2012 about hundreds of 500, 600, but the majority, I can say maybe 80%, yes, are Mexicans. And I have, Central Salvadorians, Guatemalans. Yeah, but the majority, yeah. With my experience, 80% of my 600.
The local reality.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
I agree with that. The majority are Spanish-speaking countries, I guess to say. But I have seen some others as well, even some couple African countries also.
There were some interesting studies that came out, and I wish I remembered the information to refer you specifically, but about how culturally there are different levels of shame associated with not having documents. So one thing we saw as a result of DACA was that a bunch of young people all, became a group, a cohort, and they thought, oh, we're all in this together. But there were lower participation rates in some groups, particularly Asian countries, where there was more individual secrecy about their status. And so I know there were some outreach efforts, but there are definitely undocumented people from all different racial groups, but there may have been some that didn't take good advantage of it, which is really a shame.
Good, good. What would be the demographics of the DACA recipients? I just heard that in average, they were brought to the United States when they were 6 years old, on average, that more than 90% of those who have benefited from DACA are actually working and studying or joining the military and many other activities. What would be the demographics if you have any data about that?
I have created my own data with my clients. Sure. I'm talking about Fort Wayne, South Bend. I have out of, I think, 580.
Your office?
Yeah, my office.
580.
Let me see if I remember my numbers. I was just working out with the numbers last week. 35% they were brought to the U.S. when they were babies. There was, yeah, 35% when they were babies. There was, I think, 25% when they were young adults. And teenagers, yeah, the rest.
Perfect.
Talking about. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
But I'm talking about, I don't know, I have seen so many national-wise, but I'm just talking about my. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, panelists. Tell us about the demographics.
Yeah, I don't have any stats per se on demographics. I mean, I can speak from experience of what has come in through our office. And I would say it's about, you know, better than 70% or more are college students, college grads who are working. And then there's, you know, another population that's just maybe not currently working, but want to be working. Those people tend to be parents that are, you know, now in the 20s, and they have young children and are maybe making that choice to not work necessarily. So, I mean, I've seen, but the majority of them are definitely usually college grads who are now employed.
Carlos, your fellow DACA recipients, how they look like along these lines?
I think, well, most of them that I met along the way, they're college students. You know, most are in the 1820s, you know, trying to get by college, you know, working, paying the tuition, you know, any other expenses that come along the way as well. So I would say, you know, the young, like around the 20s, 18s.
Do they have any government benefits?
So sadly, we don't qualify for any, you know, any assistance, you know, with that being FAFSA, anything, you know, we don't qualify for, you know.
Student loans?
No.
Pell Grants?
Sadly, no.
Do they pay in-state tuition?
Well, most of them that I know, we pay out-of-state tuition. Yeah, rare cases, you know, it's, you know, that the in-state, you know, that I hear about it, it's rare.
Are there any kind of burden to our taxpayers, panelists?
Definitely not, that I'm aware of.
Not in my experience.
No, my experience with.
Good,
None whatsoever.
good. Now, what do communities need to do immediately in order to get this problem solved? Anyone?
Call your senator and representative.
Yeah, I mean, stay motivated. Try to keep it, for those of us who are maybe in situations where they can keep it in the media. Colleges are good examples to do that. You know, kids, young adults, college students have natural tendencies to pool groups of people. Colleges are good places to do that. I think keeping the word going will keep it on the docket, so to speak, for our legislatures, and definitely participate in that manner.
I agree with that. Definitely had to do that, and also, and I know Desiree is doing it too. Our community, they need to know about the rights too, because it doesn't matter what is your, you know, immigration situation, what is your legal status in this country. You have rights. You know, this is United States, and just to educate, you know, our community about their rights, and we are doing it, and I know your agency is doing it too, and just be active and participate everything that we can.
Claire.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think it's important for people with DACA and just the community in general to feel supported by the rest of the community, and I think that I've seen a lot of people with DACA or in that demographic that struggles a little bit with depression and just hopelessness about their future, which is understandable, quite honestly, to feel like I'm doing everything I can to get ahead, and here there are just doors being closed left and right. And I think I've had a lot of people express that they want something to be done about it, but at the same time, just knowing that people care about that has been encouraging to them. So I would say that's important to reach out.
We have 2 chambers of Congress in Washington Probably where the discussion makes more sense to begin with is in the Senate, because if we count the probably favorable votes, that's where the numbers are a lot more clear than in the House. So the community needs to actually begin to contact our legislators. We know that Senator Donnelly once voted for immigration reform a couple of years ago, so that's a good beginning there. This is the best segment among the immigrants in this country that probably Congress can do something about it. We don't know because I haven't read any statement from Senator Young, but he's also young and recent, the younger senator in our delegation. I do remember seeing a statement from Representative Banks when President Trump decided to rescind the program, saying that it should have been in Congress in the first place. So maybe this is a moment to remind him that his statement should be then made a reality in that regard. And I know that politicians have their own interest, and it may be in their interest or not to actually take this issue. But I know that it should be in the interest of our communities, and we should let them know exactly what we feel about it. Julie, with your permission, can now pass the ball to the audience. Yes. Perfect. Did the audience know that there is some food there?
Yes, please come eat this food.
Yeah. Yeah, before we leave, we have to eat all of that. Now, let's take advantage of having this magnificent panel here to ask specific questions, and I'm sure that the audience will have. I will try to help, and we have a microphone that could be carried around for you to have those questions. Fred.
First question is, where is the meeting on Saturday? What building?
The meeting on Saturday is WALB Union, WALB Student Union, room 114.
114.
From 12 to 3.
Renewal fee is how much?
$4.95.
Oh, I forgot that these people not only have to pass all that background check, but they have to pay $500 also.
Finally, I talked to Kathy Green at the Congressman's office Monday morning. He's awaiting a House proposal. There's about 3 streams moving in the House at this point before he does anything. The best thing that people can do, however, is to email Kathy Green at mail.house.gov. She will relay your opinions to Representative Banks. Senator Young had a meeting with the Burma community in Indy about 2 weeks ago, and he appears to be a good listener. There is no question that this is the time to say it. Indiana last session delayed or canceled all immigration discussions on all of their laws because the House had a committee last summer, and they could not come to any agreement except that it is a federal issue. So it's really important that people support y'all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kathy? Then Alice? Kathy, back there.
Hello. I apologize if this has already been covered. I might not have heard.
Don't worry. Don't apologize.
All right. So I've listened to this over the years, and I've sensed that part of the difficulty for people in doing the senators and the representatives for doing comprehensive immigration reform and path to citizenship is in a way they feel as though they would be sanctioning someone breaking the law. So I don't know how to resolve that or what to say about that, but does anybody have ideas about what we could respond, how we could respond to that? I don't know how to argue against that.
Well, I do know that that's part of the reason why we are pushing for a more specific legislation rather than for the Dreamers, rather than this huge, big, comprehensive that can still be passed at some point, but our dreamers were not of age or age of consent even, really, most of them, when they came. So the idea that you know, their sanctioning, I think, is a lot lessened in that group per se. So I'm definitely for a more targeted approach as far as legislation for the specific group. I think that would be beneficial in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question, and I think that Congress wouldn't be responsible if they weren't looking at the long-term social effects of, you know, passing different types of legislation like this. You want to make sure you're encouraging the rule of law. You want to make sure you have some amount of control and safety, and those are all important factors. I think for the way I look at it is that I'm a pragmatist. You know, I mean, it's like you can have all the ideology you want about what people should have done, but the facts on the ground right now are that we have millions of people in this situation. It's become a humanitarian situation, particularly with the young people. And so the question to me is, you know, what would happen, you know, if you do pass something, does it encourage future law breaking, and what's the effect of that? Because some people will say, and I think it's an excellent point, they'll say, we've had, you know, amnesties, we've had reforms in the past, and here we are again with the same problem, so what's the difference this time? But what I think the difference is that last time they did it, there weren't computers, and we have not updated our immigration system, and that really is not a good way to enforce anything without computers. So I mean, at least at this point, they've started doing this very recently, but it's like, you could come in on a visa, the government knows you came in on the visa, you don't leave by the time they gave you, guess what, no one goes to their house and says, you still here, it's time to leave. So it's problems like that that were never taken care of because we can't talk about a reasonable immigration reform. I think everybody could agree that that would be the point to enforce it, not 35 years later when they're a grandpa, you know what I mean? So I think that's important. I also, one of my favorite concepts in law, because I'm a huge nerd, obviously, you guys have seen this already, is there's a concept called proportionality, and it's the idea that, you know, there's a varying degree of punishment based on the action that the person took, you know, what law they broke. And that's important. You know, why don't we say, you know, speeding ticket, you'll be executed? It's because we have to find we have to find a punishment that fits the action that was taken, while at the same time not encouraging future unlawful activity. And so I think there's a big proportionality issue here too, because it is such a life-changing consequence, particularly for these people, you know, the kids who it wasn't their choice. So I think it's just that those legal nuances are how I look at the issue specifically.
One comment before we move to Alice. And if there is something that might result as a consequence of the debate, is precisely the tightening of the enforcement of immigration laws. Because it is true that there have been very relaxed ways to actually enforce that in the past. But we are not advocating for a free border, for an open border. We are advocating for resolving both problems at the same time, border security and the solution to the problem to those who have been here contributing to this country. Alice, and then Steve.
Thank you, Max. My name is Alice Jordan Miles, and I'm the director of the Behavioral Health and Family Studies Institute here at IPFW. And one of the other hats that I wear is I have a mentoring program that I do personally on my personal time. And Carlos up here has really done himself a disservice. He has really not talked about his major accomplishments as a dreamer. He's a young man who, in high school, took over 60 credits of dual credits. 60 credit hours of dual credits that he brought into college. He's an engineering student. He works 30 hours a week and maintains a 3+ GPA. He's a young man that, he is a young man with great character. He just a very influential, nice young man that it brings just the thought of him, or even Eduardo, any of the students that I come in contact with, just to go away just because they didn't live or was born in the Estados Unidos. And I must say, Carlos put together a speech for today, and I wish he would talk. Could he say it? And then I'd like to make another comment. Sure. Go ahead, Carlos, will you please?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Before I begin, I would like to thank everybody who took part in this organization. this evening and made everything possible today. Also, everybody who is here today, I thank you guys for coming. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to freely express myself today. My name is Carlos Lopez, and I am currently a 20-year-old. Standing here to talk to you guys about the deferred action, also known as DACA. I want to express how this program completely changed my life from a 360 degree difference in my life, and allowed me to dream my American dream here in the United States. I was originally born in Mexico. At the age of 7 years old, my parents decided to bring me here to the United States. When I was younger, I never understood my parents. I never understood why did I come? Why did we come here? And people around me always used, the term the American dream. But over time, I realized how there was quite a difference, how there was quite a meaning behind this American dream. I learned that it was a big dream that the future had in store for me. The dream came along with a good education, which I'm currently in right now. I'm enrolled in a 4-year institution that's allowing me to, work on my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, a passion that I have for, and simply, a better life along with that, not only, education, but a better life that neither of my parents had the chance to have. In 2004 was when I first stepped into this great nation, the United States. I started my education career with knowing little to no English. I overcame many obstacles because of my situation, knowing nothing, knowing little bit English. People deemed me, they're like, "You're never gonna make it. Why are you still fighting for this? Why do you continue? I see you struggle every day, but why are you still here? Why don't you just give up? Go work in a factory job. Go, maybe follow your dad's steps and, wake up at 4 in the morning every day, come back till 9 probably, and work every day, no breaks, But thank God, in less than 6 months, I was able to learn English as my second language. And in 2016, just this past year, I graduated from East Island University, which is an early academy that allowed me to start my college career by earning college credits as a freshman in high school. After my 4 years, when it came time to graduate, I had more than 60 credits, like Alice said, accumulated, which was equivalent to an associate's degree in science. Not only was this just associate degree, but it was credits that were transferable to any college or public university, college that transferred to any college I would want to go to. And this school was partnered by Vincent's University, which was the school that was affiliated with my high school, which is East Island University. Along with my associate's degree in science, now I also got my high school diploma with academic honors, and I was successful, achieving this goal. But I noticed one thing along the way. That was my dream of continuing my education at a university would not be a reality, due to my immigration status. However, there was a light of hope when the former President Barack Obama recognized that there was many students with broken dreams, just like me and Eduardo, that had the desire, and the ability to conquer our dreams. And later, Barack Obama, with his hand on his heart, he was able to sign the executive order that started DACA. Thousands of students, teens, including myself, are being benefited from this program. And we were given hope again, to hopefully, get our degree, get that 4-year degree, be someone in life, contribute to the United States, make the difference among the United States and show everybody that, You know, we're here for a purpose. If it's one thing I can tell you guys about this program is that it's, like I said, it changed my life. DACA has not only been blessing me, but thousands of students and inspiring doctors, architects, lawyers across the country who are able to chase their dreams freely without fear, and their families who get to watch them do what they want and support them every step of the way. Something that they thought would never be able to do. Now here I am. I'm currently a sophomore at IPFW, majoring in mechanical engineering. Not only am I a student, but I also work a part-time job at JCPenney's, you know, working more than 30 hours. And I manage still, you know, to keep a balance between my life, school, to pay my tuition. Thanks to this country, my country, because that's all I consider it as since I grew up here most of my years. And to all the Latino students out here, let's not be ashamed of our roots, but let's instead come together as one to make this difference, to show everybody and overcome any obstacle that may be placed our way. You know, let's never stop fighting. And today I would like to end with one of my favorite quotes by Rolf Emerson that states, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." Thank you.
I just have one question before I go because I have homework to do. So, my DREAM Act ends in April 2019. Does that mean it's going to be terminated in March of 2018? Or do I have time still?
Currently as it stands right now, that your status goes until it expires.
Until it expires.
So luckily you have a good length of time. So it will be until the March of 2019 if that's what.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. I'm Steve Corona, Executive Director of Latinos Count, and I had some information to respond to the question that you're confronted with, and it's from an op-ed piece that appeared in the New York Times yesterday titled "How to End the Immigration Wars," and it was written by Eric Cantor, the former Republican House Majority Leader. And it's really interesting, and I think it gives us all hope, but in part he says, "I have long believed that America is a country of laws and that border security is paramount. I also firmly believe that the principles of our founding dictate that children should not be punished for the illegal acts of their parents. The Dreamers were not responsible for their situation, and as a compassionate nation and people, we owe them our help. A legal process that could address their status effectively and permanently." Now, unless you drove the car across the border as an accomplice to this crime, and you didn't, right? You did nothing illegal. So why are we holding him and other DACA students of a crime they did not commit? And so now we're hearing Republicans who say, these kids did nothing wrong. This is a part of our country. Let's find a solution for them. Two other things. I just got a text from the United We Dream, which is probably the #1 organization in the country for DACA students, and they wanted a donation from me. And you can make the donation too for people like George and Carlos and others who need the $4.95. So they're taking donations. And so I would also say that at your clinic, if your folks don't have the $4.95, I would go to United We Dream to see if they can help out some of our kids. Finally, I've been talking to people from another national organization called the New American Economy, and they are a pro-immigration group, and they've asked me to find out if we have DACA folks here who who has an employer who would be willing to speak out. They want to publicize the fact that there are literally thousands of American businessmen and women who believe in DACA and are willing to stand up for our DACA kids. So if there are any people who are DACA youth or know of DACA youth who work for somebody who are willing to go on record for this campaign, I'd like to talk to them afterward. So.
Hi, I'm Mike Kennedy. I'm a student here at IPFW. I was wondering, as students, what can we do to raise awareness for this?
First, you came to this meeting, and that's fantastic. Secondly, there are student organizations here at IPFW, Gladys. Hispanos Unidos? Hispanos Unidos. There is a student organization of students of Latino origin that you can help with. And any other organization that you are part of, I am a member of the faculty. I am available for any initiatives that are possible within campus. We truly appreciate the fact that our students show that support. And remember that things will not happen until we make them happen. And this is the moment. Desiree talked about momentum. This is the momentum to make things happen. Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Monica. I was brought illegally to this country 37 years ago, and thanks to the amnesty law in mid to late 80s, my family was able to change their status. And like Carlos said, it really changed our lives for the better. I think we have to be really cautious about maligning our parents who brought us here because they want the best for us. So I just want to be cautious about making sure that we don't throw our parents under the bus.
Who else raised hands? Yes, right here.
For the panelists that are involved with processing applications, since this last election, what are the on-the-ground conditions in the processes? Are they being accepted more readily or quickly or less? Or
Due to the change in government, has it been better, worse, equal, the process?
Are you talking about particular with the DACA process?
With the DACA applications in the process of putting them through the government, since we have a new administration, is that process working about the same or not?
With my experience, it has been kind of weird because it has been pretty fast, actually, the processes. Some of my renewals have taken no more than, in some cases, than 25 days or 30 days. So it has been extremely fast, which kind of worries me a little bit too, because it's like, what is this getting so fast? But yeah, since January, it has been extremely fast, the process. My experience, I don't know you guys.
Bureaucracy doesn't take into account the political climate. And that's good, that's good.
You know, from the sounds of it, especially earlier on as we were talking, the responsibility relies with Congress, a Congress that for 15 years hasn't really moved, and we have 5 more months. And so I'm thinking of that balance, the scale of 15 years of inertia over on this side and 5 months to get it done here. So are there national organizations, state organizations, local organizations that are trying to mobilize the electorate to contact their congressmen? And if so, how do we get in touch with them and what do we do to be a part of that?
The most important one is the one that Steve just mentioned. United We Dream is the name. United We Dream, which is an organization for dreamers, by dreamers, led by dreamers. The National Council of La Raza, and many other national Latino civil rights organizations are doing this. In the local context, we have the Hispanic Leadership Coalition of Northeast Indiana, Latinos Count, and these excellent helpers through nonprofit organizations here that are at the forefront of that fight, precisely.
I just need clarification on one issue, and that is the DACA renewal. So are you saying that if someone renews it now, they will get to stay here 2 years regardless of what Congress does?
The ones that they have, remember, you had to do the DACA. The DACA is good for 2 years. So you had to do your renewal every 2 years, 3 or 6 months in advance. So the one right now, there are DACAs that they are going to expire. The ones that are going to expire March or before that, March 5th, this is the ones that they can do the renewal right now. And they're going to be good for another 2 years.
So regardless of what happens?
Yes, regardless.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, they will be good for another 2 years.
If the expiration, Kathy, is before March 5th.
And September 5th or later. I've seen misinformation out there about if your card's already expired, can you renew? But it's only if the expiration date is September 5th of this year to March 5th and any of those days. But before or after, you're out of luck, and they have to apply before October 5th. So they've got a very small window to renew all those people, hence the wonderful clinics here.
That's why the importance of the clinic this Saturday here at IPFW, WAP 114 from noon to 3 p.m. And these wonderful people will be there. Terrific. Yes. Use the microphone, please, because we are recording this.
Also, I don't know if people are aware, the Mexican consulate, depending on which one's closest to you, they are helping also with the DACA renewal fee. So for us, I know you could call like the Chicago one and get information from them as to how to go about to do that. Because if you are of Mexican nationality, they will offer help with that. And also, one more thing. Like as a DACA recipient myself, I think one of the most important things you have to remember is to also like not be afraid to share your story with people, just because, right? And just because I think sometimes people have a kind of like a stereotype as to what dreamers are because of what we see on TV, but if you share your story with people, you don't know how you can shape their perspective and actually let them know, what you're going through and what the process is like. That's the best way to kind of spread awareness, I think, as well.
On that note, if you want to share your story, please come talk to me. But I had a question for the panel. I don't know if you could answer or not, but with regards to the relationship between Dreamers and law enforcement, of course we know that if you do have DACA, you have a driver's license that you would go and you would, pass the test and get a driver's license. And if that goes away, do you know if there are, is anyone talking about that and what that's going to cause, especially since they are abiding by the rules now, and then that would cause them to potentially break that rule?
That's been a long-standing issue and running argument with the Indiana legislative body is why do we spend a lot of resources pulling people over for driving without a license and not provide an opportunity for them to get a license? So basically they would just get rolled in with everybody else and also be processed for driving without a license, which is a misdemeanor in Indiana. So it ties up the court and the police officers and everything, unfortunately.
And it can, if something does happen, it can cause immigration consequences later, obviously. We see that a lot, unfortunately.
Terrific. I think Alice mentioned that she also has a question.
I was just, I was on a blog today, and it was a conservative blog, and they were talking that we as Americans, are we willing to pay for a wall to give dreamers a life? I thought about that, and the way our political climate is, I wouldn't put that past them or him. I'll give you that if you give me this.
There are so many things going on in the political arena. What those of us who advocate for the Dreamers want is the solution to the dreamers and the solution to the wider population undocumented in this country. Definitely, we do need border security. The shape that it takes, it will be determined by what happens, but well taken, your statement, ma'am. Any other question? I think that if we don't have any question, Julie, oh, you do? Go ahead.
I've read a lot of articles in the national news, and there seems this whole atmosphere of fear. There were reports that it was affecting people's willingness to go to the hospital for treatment, or their willingness to go to shelters in Florida and things like this, because there were rumors that that people were going to be arrested and undocumented people were in trouble. Do you hear reports of this sort of thing happening in Northeast Indiana, that people are afraid and don't want to go seek services and the things that they need to
The rumor mills have been working at full capacity these days, and it does have some type of consequences locally. There are many people afraid. The DACA recipients are the least afraid people that you can imagine, but the wider undocumented population is really, really afraid, and it is making things worse. The whole notion of community policing is at risk because of that. If people are afraid of showing their faces, they are not going to be reporting crimes. They are not going to be calling the police. There are many consequences in that regard. And of course, that happens with the wider undocumented population, which is a lot bigger than the around 1 million dreamers that we have. Thank you so much for coming.